Aztec Christic Magic Samael Aun Weor. 1. Aztec Christic Magic by Samael Aun Weor. Aztec Christic Magic Samael Aun Weor. 2. Chapter 1. That which has never been explained. And Jehovah Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed, and out of the ground made Jehovah Elohim to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food, the tree of El also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Eden is sex itself. The two trees, the tree of life and the tree of the science of good and evil, are in Eden. The tree of life is the spinal medulla, the tree of the science of good and evil is the sexual force. And Jehovah Elohim commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. A small strange statue stood upon a little Indian altar, which was covered with golden and bronzed cups. Upon the altar, in a silver jar, a bunch of enormous black candles and red flowers stood. The statue was carved from a very pure piece of black onyx. It was of a completely naked goddess, androgynous in form, demoniacal and enthralled. It had fragile arms, a very well-molded torso, and depressive hips. Engraved within her eyelids were two emeralds that shone in an extraordinary manner, and between her well-shaped thighs under her lower abdomen, a mocking and menacing small skull was upon her sex. Man and woman were born to love each other, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. The man and the woman were both naked, and were not ashamed of it, because they still had not eaten from the tasty forbidden fruit, which was pleasant to the eyes. That forbidden fruit is sex. However, the sexual instinctual serpent was more astute, and said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. Yet the sexual instinctual serpent seduced the woman, and said unto her, Ye shall not surely die, for God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. In Eden, human beings were innocent because they still had not fornicated. Men and women from Eden ate from the fruits of the tree of life, because the four heads of the sexual river of the pure waters of life nourished the roots of the trees of the garden. Aztec Christic Magic Samael Aun Weor. 3. Men and women from Eden enjoyed the delights of love within the profound forests of an ancient continent that they called Lemuria. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons. This is how they fornicated. Therefore Jehovah Elohim sent them forth from the Garden of Eden, to till their ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims, and a flaming sword which turned every way, to keep the way of the tree of wisdom. The human being lost his divine powers when he violated the sixth commandment of the law of God that states, Thou shalt not fornicate. In ancient times, men and women were true magicians, who had power over the fire of volcanoes, over the wind and hurricanes, over the torments of the sea, and over the great earthquakes. When the human being fornicated, he had to work in sorrow, because he lost his divine powers. Thus, thorns and thistles were what he brought forth from this valley of tears. In ancient times, when the human being still did not depart from Eden, the sexual act was only performed within the sacred precincts of the temples of mysteries and under the guidance of the angels. This is how uncorrupted men and women were born within the thick jungles of Lemuria. Practice. Before falling asleep, always at your own particular hour, lie down, face up, on your bed, relax all of the muscles in your body and make your mind blank. You must not think of absolutely anything for 30 minutes. This practice should be done 6 days out of the week. Aztec Christic Magic Samael Aun Weor. 4. Chapter 2. That which the Nahuas were teaching in their secret temples. Quetzalcoatl, Toltec god of the wind, third child of the divine couple Ometecatlian. Omesahuatl, Lord and Lady of Duality. Quetzalcoatl is represented with a silvery garment, such as the rays of Selene, the moon. He wears a crescent moon on his chest and covers his face with a sacred mask. In his left hand he holds the chamali, upon which the symbol of the dawning star is depicted. In his right hand he holds the macuahuitl, for battle. In another representation, this deity appears as the dawning star amongst the clouds. He carries a single sash on his waist, and on his back there is a linen cloth with 2 crosses, each of the crossed arms equal in length. On one of his hieroglyphs, his head and ears appear as discs. On his nose, above his lip there hangs a disc. On his cheeks there are 3 discs where 2 Maltese crosses are depicted on the middle of each of them. In the year CEACATL 895, in the home of Aztec Mexcoatl and Chamalma Quetzalcoatl, the Nahua cosmic Christ was incarnated. He had a mystical and austere disposition. When very young he practiced fasting and penance. When he was 30 years old he was named Grand Priest and Monarch of Talan, Tula, State of Hidalgo, another Toltecan estates. Exiled from his country, he returned to it. After many years, from distant countries, he brought with him a very advanced civilization, and a monotheistic religion of love for all human beings. Another of those chronicles states, Quetzalcoatl arrived to Talan through Panuco. He was carried over the sea in a wooden vessel. He was fair-skinned and bearded. He wore a tunic embroidered with little red crosses. As an instructor, the Nahuas represented Quetzalcoatl with a mitre, made out of gold, that was covered with a precioous feathered, quetzali, tiger skin along with an attractively adorned surplice and turquoise earrings. He had a necklace made out of gold from which hung little tiny and precious marine shells. He wore a precious, feathered, quetzali cape that resembled flames of fire, and a cactli made out of tiger skin, from which also hung little marine shells. These little marine shells were held tight with very wide laces. These laces were then crisscrossed up the calf. In his left hand he held shields, showing 5 pointed stars in their centers, and in his right hand he held a scepter made out of gold, which was engraved with precious stones. Quetzalcoatl taught them how to farm the earth, how to classify the animals, how to carve precious stones, how to melt metals. He taught them about the goldsmith trade and about ceramics. Quetzalcoatl taught them about astronomy and how to use the calendar. He prohibited war. He taught them that they should sacrifice bread, flowers, and copali instead of humans and animals. He prohibited homicide, thievery, polygamy, and any evil deed among human beings. Aztec Christic Magic Samael Aun Weor. 5. In Talan, Quetzalcoatl founded a temple of mysteries with 4 great altars. The first altar was made out of cedar wood with green ornaments. The second altar was made out of cedar wood with coral ornaments. The third altar was made out of cedar wood with marine shell ornaments. The fourth altar was made out of cedar wood with ornaments of precious feathers, quetzali. Before these altars, Quetzalcoatl and his disciples prayed, fasted and practiced penances. Quetzalcoatl talked to them about Ipalnamoani, he from whom we live, about the creation of the world, about the downfall of the human being, about the deluge, about Christ and his gospel, about the baptism, about the circumcision, and about the cross, symbol of the immortality of life and of the regeneration of the human genre. Quetzalcoatl recommended that crosses be set upon the altars of the temples and in their homes. He named the countries, the mountains and the valleys. Quetzalcoatl was a divine instructor. He was denied and persecuted by the same people whom he had taught how to love and live. They persecuted him, and in his escape from Talon, he sought refuge for some time in Teotihuacan, a place of worship, where he left behind an open temple. On this temple's altar, the masters performed self-sacrifice and the solemn ceremony of the new fire. The altar of this temple is adorned with serpents' heads that are emerging from the calyx of a flower. This symbolizes Quetzalcoatl's fall into the atomic human abysses. The white shells and the red snail shells that decorate these serpents' heads are the emblem of the primary origin of this deity. Quetzalcoatl passed from Teotihuacan to Cholula, where he lived for 20 years. However, because of a war, he had to flee from that place. He departed with 4 of his disciples to Coatzacoalcos. The annals state that he built a boat and entered the sea and disappeared, but before he left, he warned them that white-bearded men like himself would arrive from the sea, to the east, and would take over Anahuac. We know that this prophecy has been fulfilled. White-bearded men did come from the sea through the east. However, they did not come in order to evangelize with words, but rather, by the sword. Pray without rest, so that ye can find the Lord with happiness instead of pain. In the Museum of Anthropology and History in the city of Mexico, there exists, as a testimony to the mystic teachings of Quetzalcoatl, a monolith with the figure of the precious, feathered, Quetzali, serpent, Coatl, above the symbolized human head, that gives the final stroke to the whole of this serpent structure. Protrudes a great bifid tongue, a symbol of light, an eye, emblem of fire, ignis, the hieroglyph Acatl Cain, and a reed above his head. Be ye therefore as wise serpents, and as harmless as doves. Matthew 10:16. Aztec Christic Magic Samael Aun Weor. 6. Quetzalcoatl, the precious feathered Quetzali serpent, is the divine emblem of the Nahuha man, Adam, who, subdued by the biblical serpent that incarnated with an M, fell into its temptation. For men, the summum of beauty is the woman. Nature, music, flowers, a landscape, a child emotionally stimulates us, yet a woman not only stimulates us but attracts us, inspires us, provokes us. As children, we yearn for her tenderness, because she is the other half of our being, and vice versa. When we love during the connubial sexual act, we are like gods. The Talamatinomy initiate philosophers knew how to withdraw from the sexual act without spilling the seminal liquor. The solar and lunar hierarchies utilized a single spermatozoid in order to fecundate the woman. The fallen angels were those who taught men and women how to ejaculate the seminal liquor. This is how they fell from their paradisiacal state into the animalism within which, since then, they helplessly struggle. Therefore, may Quetzalcoatl, the divine lovely feathered Quetzali, Quadi, serpent, victoriously rise throughout their vertebral column. Again, this is how the precious feathered Quetzali serpent became transformed and descended into the atomic abysses of man and woman, when they violated the 6th commandment of the law of God, thou shalt not fornicate. This is why the serpent had to writhe upon its belly through the mud of the earth, because it was cursed. See Genesis 3:14. This precious feathered Quetzalhi serpent is enclosed within our seminal glands and can only awaken and rise within the amorous magic's influx. This is also the Nahuas, emblem of the sacred fire of the Holy Spirit. When the Holy Spirit rises through the septuplet canal of the spinal medulla, it converts us into angels. In the stony patios of the temples of Nahua's mysteries, couples, man and woman, endured months and months, caressing each other, and even sexually uniting themselves. without ever reaching the ejaculation of the seminal liquor. This is how the Nawas awoke in themselves the universal fire or the sacred fire of the Holy Spirit. This is how they converted themselves into magicians who made prodigies such as the ones that were performed by the Divine Master Jesus Christ during his time on the earth. Part of the teachings of this book is to teach others how to transmute the human animalistic sexual forces into divine mental forces. Man and woman, united by means of the natural use of their sex, will return to Eden. Love converts us into gods. When the precious, feathered, Quetzalcoatl serpent rises through the vertebral column, it transforms itself into Quetzalcoatl, into the marvelous bird of all transformations, into the Minerva bird whose terrific secrets cannot be revealed by any initiate. Then, the sacred fire of the Holy Spirit flourishes upon our lips and is made verb. Aztec Christic Magic Samael Aun Weor. 7. Under the influx of our word, the fire, the air, the water and the earth will obey and adore us. Practice. While resting on your bed, dorsal decubitus, on your back, facing up, relax all of the muscles in your body, from the tip of your feet until the top of your head, and make your mind blank for 10 minutes. Afterwards, imagine that through your pineal gland, located almost exactly in the middle of your brain, the fire of the Holy Spirit descends from heaven and enters into your body, and revitalizes the marvelous chakra of this gland. Imagine that this chakra shines with its 12 central golden petals. An infinite number of multicolored petals are in the background, multicolored rays of light, petals of a marvelous lotus flower that moves from left to right, clockwise, as in a fiery whirl. This exercise must last for 1 hour, and must be performed before you fall asleep. Aztec Christic Magic Samael Aun Weor. 8. Chapter 3. The Beheaded One. A phallic monolith representing a beheaded man is found in the Museum of Anthropology and History in Mexico City. In place of his head, there are 7 erected serpents with protruding bifid tongues, which represent light coming out from their open mouths. This man's phallus is erect. With one hand he points towards the rays of light that are emerging from within his own vertebral column. The sacred fire of Pentecost, the fire of the universe, appeared unto the 12 apostles as cloven tongues like as of fire, and it sat upon the head of each of them. Acts 2:1-4. This Nahua phallic monolith with its 7 serpents symbolizes Quetzalcoatl the victor. The 7 serpents with bifid tongues is the sexual fire of the adept of the arcanic sciences. The yogis speak about the Kundalini, the igneous serpent of the magical lightning powers. The Nawas worshipped Quetzalcoatl as a god of the winds. However, they also worshipped him as a precious feathered, Quetzalhai, septuplet serpent, Coatl, that is, dormant, fallen into the atomic abysses, in both man and woman. However, Quetzalcoatl waits within their coccyx, to be awakened and lifted up by the perfect couple. The 7 serpents that replace the head of the beheaded one also symbolize the man who raises his 7 serpents and converts himself into a dragon of 7 truths. The erect phallus, shaped as a palm, shows us that the 7 serpents are lifted up only by means of amorous magic. This is how man and woman can achieve victory in their life. There is nothing greater than love. God shines upon the perfect couple. The vertebral column has 33 ring-like vertebrae that are placed one on top of the other and form an osseous canal that contains and protects the spinal medulla. This is the tree of physical life that departs from the brain and descends past the second lumbar vertebra. It then extends from there as a bunch of nerves, until it reaches the coccyx. The cervical region has 7 vertebrae, the dorsal has 9, the lumbar has 5, the sacra has 5, and the coccygeal has 4 vertebrae. The spinal medulla is septuplet. The canalus centralis is located in the middle and along the spinal medulla. Inside the canalus centralis exists another very fine canal, and inside that one another one, and inside that one yet another, etc. This goes on 7 times. It is through the 7th canal that the precious, feathered Quetzalli serpent, as soon as it is awakened, rises. It is in the spinal medulla that we have, one inside of the other, the canal of the physical body, the canal of the ethereal body, the canal of the astral body, the canal of the mental body, etc. The physical, ethereal, astral and mental, or the 4 bodies of sin. These also form the temple or the abode of our innermost. Our innermost has 2 souls, the universal or divine soul, and the human soul. Aztec Christic Magic Samael Aun Weor. 9. The human being has 7 bodies that co-penetrate one inside of the other without confusion. Each one of these bodies has its own spinal medulla. There is a serpent that corresponds to each one of them, 7 serpents, 2 groups of 3, and in the midst of them is the sublime crown of the 7th serpent, that is the 7th tongue of fire that unites us with law, with our innermost, with our Father. The human being lights and raises within himself the universal fire with the first initiation of major mysteries. This is how the first serpent is raised. Then the second serpent is raised with the second initiation, the third serpent is raised with the third initiation, and likewise until raising the 7th serpent. The ascent of the 7th precious feathered Quetzalli serpent throughout each one of the 33 vertebrae of the dorsal spine, the 33 degrees of masonry, is very slow and difficult, and it is only possible by means of sexual magic. We must not allow ejaculation. We must transmute the semen that departs from the testicles in the man and from the ovaries in the woman into electromagnetic energy that rises through the different conducts of both in order to be united in their spinal medulla and their coccygeal gland. This energy ascends from its coccygeal base towards the brain and is converted into solar and lunar atoms. The precious, feathered Quetzalli serpent is awakened, agitated and raised when the semen is transmuted, by means of the alchemy of sexual, amorous contact, into electromagnetic energy and makes contact in the coccygeal gland. Subsequently, the serpent is transformed into Quetzalcoatl, which gives us the power to unleash or harness the winds, to unleash or harness the tempests, to activate or deactivate the fire, and to appease or to make the earth tremble. Practice. Lie down on your bed and with all the muscles of your body relaxed, slumber while thinking that the fire of the Holy Spirit continues to descend from heaven, as in the former practice, and enters into your head through the pineal gland. Feel that such a fire inundates your brain, and puts into motion from left to right, clockwise, the marvelous and bicolored lotus flower of your pituitary chakra, the eye of the prophet. The pituitary gland is situated in the mid-brow. See it fill with fire and spin upon itself. While in that state of consciousness, vocalize the syllable in as follows. Feel as if you are floating on an ocean of fire. This exercise must last for about 30 minutes and must be performed before going to sleep. If possible, perform it at the same time every day, while lying down on your bed. The next day, write down everything that you dreamed about in a notebook, without telling your impressions to anybody, and without commenting about this esoteric work that concerns only the secret study of yourself, with anyone. Aztec Christic Magic Samael Aun Weor. 10. Chapter 4. The Secret Temple of Chapultepec. According to the Aztec language, the word Chapultepec means the following: chapel or Chapulin means cricket, and Tepec, hill. Therefore, the Aztec word Chapultepec must be defined as the hill of the cricket. In ancient Rome, during the time of the Caesars, the cricket was sold in golden cages at a very high price. In Mexico City, at the Museum of Anthropology and History, there exists A very interesting picture related to the teachings that were taught to the Aztec nobility and priests in their secret temples. In this picture, we see two individuals floating over the hill of Chapultepec. A chirping cricket appears at the summit of the hill. Next to this scene, a floating human face appears. From the mouth emerges two waves of light which symbolize the chirping of the cricket, or in other words, the symbol for the monotonous and sharp sound of the cricket that the two people who are floating over the foothill must produce in order to penetrate into the temple. The chirping of the cricket is the still voice which Apollonius of Tyana utilized in order to depart in his astral body. This is the small, still voice which Elijah heard when he went out and stood in the entering in of the cave in the wilderness. Read 1 Kings 19:12-14. The human being is a triad of body, soul and spirit. A mediator between the spirit and the body exists. This mediator is the body of the soul, the astral body. One possesses a soul, yet one is a spirit. The astral body is part human and part divine. It is endowed with marvelous internal senses with which we can investigate the great mysteries of life and death. The mind, the willpower and the consciousness abide within the astral body. In the hill of Chapultepec, a temple in Jinn state exists. In other words, within the fourth dimension, one can assist this temple in the astral body. The rector of the temple of Chapultepec is the Venerable Master Rasmussen. This temple is safeguarded by very zealous guardians with naked swords. During the hours of ordinary sleep, all human beings act and travel in their astral body. However, upon awakening, not all of us remember what we saw, heard or did while acting within that body. Therefore, in the mornings, upon awakening from one's dreams, one must perform the effort to remember all which one had dreamt. One's dreams are nothing more than experiences within the astral world. One must carefully take note of all of them in a notebook. Aztec Christic Magic Samael Aun Weor. 11. When you perform your practices, concentrate on the sharp chirping of the cricket. This chirping must sound from within the smallest cells of your brain. If this practice is done correctly, you will soon be in the transition between vigil and slumber. Increase the slumber and the sound of the cricket's chirping by using your willpower. Then get up from your bed and with complete confidence leave your bedroom and go towards the temple of Chapultepec, or wherever else you wish to go. You must try not to lose the lucidity of your consciousness. Do not mentally get up from your bed. Instead, actually get yourself up. Nature will take charge of separating your astral body from your physical body. The physical body will remain sleeping in its bed, and the astral body will become free to travel wherever you wish. The Aztecs utilized the peyote in order to teach the neophytes to travel within their astral bodies. We do not recommend the use of this marvelous cactus, which makes the astral body separate itself from the physical body, and preserves the lucidity of consciousness while acting in the astral world. Indeed, what we recommend is practice, much practice, and soon you will act and travel within the astral body. Practice. Without putting off the exercise delivered in the former chapter, lie down on your bed and fall asleep while vocalizing the syllable LA. The intonation of this syllable corresponds to the natural note FA of the musical scale. You must prolong this syllable like this: LA. Immediately after, you must vocalize the syllable RA. RA. Aztec Christic Magic Samael Aun Weor. 12. Chapter 5. CHAC Mulan, the Aztec and Egyptian cultures. In the Museum of Anthropology and History in Mexico City there exists a stone figure of a man who is partially lying down in a dorsal decubitus position. The soles of his feet are resting on his bed, thus his knees are elevated, the backs of his thighs are pressed up, against the backs of his calves because his legs are bent, his upper body is arched as if he may get up at his first impulse, his face is towards the left and his sight is fixed on the horizon. At the height of his solar plexus his hands hold a container. Archaeologists know this man carved out of stone. His name is Chacmul, and this figure is one amongst the very few symbols from the Aztec pantheon, which were rescued from the destruction of the conquest. The mystic Aztecs, Mayans, Tarascos, etc., carved this Chacmul in order to perpetuate the wisdom that they received as a secret inheritance from their forefathers. The name of this Aztec sculpture is Pharaon, a name whose syllables are divided as follows: Pharaon. When properly vocalized, they are a mantra that makes the astral body of the one who pronounces them separate from their physical body and soar within space towards the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. To travel within the astral body is not dangerous. During our state of slumber, all of us human beings wander within the internal worlds with our consciousness asleep. Every soul abandons its physical body during the state of slumber. During this process, the ethereal body has the opportunity to repair the physical body. We awaken from this normal process of sleeping when the soul returns into the physical body. While in the internal worlds, the souls occupy themselves in the same daily chores that they perform on earth during the vigil state. They buy, sell, work in their office, in the shop, in the factory, in the fields, etc. The incarnated and disincarnated souls live together. During the sleepy state, everything is the same in the internal worlds: the sun, the clouds, the cities, all things. It is enough to assist a spiritist's, medium's, channelers' session to become aware of the fact that the dead do not accept that they are dead, and to comprehend why the souls of the living love, suffer, fight and work during the sleepy state. We must learn to preserve the lucidity of the consciousness during the state of slumber. To achieve the former statement, we recommend that every time you come across other people, events, or unusual things that call your attention, discern and ask yourself, am I within my physical body or within my astral body? Then perform a little jump in order to see if you can float. If you can float, it is because you are in the astral body. If you do not float, it is because you are in the physical body. Within the internal worlds we act as if we are in the body of bones and flesh, as if we were physically awakened. There is no Aztec Christic magic. Samael Aun Weor. 13. Difference between these two worlds, between the physical and the astral. Read the 1001 Phantoms by Alexander Dumas. What we usually perform during the vigil state, we also perform during the slumber state. Therefore, if during the day you practice the former key, that is, to perform a little jump, in order to be sure in which of your bodies you are wandering in, then during the night, when you leave your bed within your astral body, you will also jump, but you will remain floating within space while your physical body remains asleep in your bed. Thus you will attend beautiful rituals and classes, where the great masters teach within the Gnostic temples that exist within the Jinn state in various parts of this country and the world. Unarguably, the secret teachings of the Nawas are common to all people from the most remote antiquity. Amongst the Hungarian legends there is mention of monolithic people, whose indescribable characters are similar to those that exist on a gigantic boulder lost in a remote valley of Yucatan, Mexico. Do not forget the clue. Take advantage of the somnolent state that exists between vigil and sleep, so that with willpower, you may project from within yourself your astral body, your discernment and your memory. By your own will you will know the great mysteries of life and death within this triangle. In order to interpret your dreams, read the book of Daniel in the Bible. Practice. Stand up in a steady position with your sight towards the east. Raise your arms above your head and place the palms of your hands together. Then move your extended arms down towards your sides to form a cross with your body, your arms out to either side. rest of your body standing straight. Then after, cross your arms over your chest and lie down dorsal decubitus on your back. When you feel you are falling asleep, with a sincere prayer ask your God and the Masters to take you to the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. Immediately after finishing your prayer, vocalize the following syllables: F-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-O-O-O-O-O-N-N-N-N-N. Each one of the sounds of these syllables has a slight variation. They correspond to the natural Fa of the musical scale that resounds in all of nature. The syllable on changing the N with this M is vocalized by the yogis before and after their meditations. Every morning at sunrise, with your face towards the east, perform vocalization practices with all of the syllables that we have taught in this book. Start with the first syllable until you finish during many successive mornings with the last 3 syllables of this chapter. If you faithfully practice each one of the exercises that we have taught in order, for at least 6 consecutive days, you will soon project yourself within your astral body. This is Aztec Christic Magic Samael Aun Weor. 14. If you are a respectable person, that you neither abuse of liquors nor tobacco, that you do not propagate gossip, that you do not enjoy making fun of your neighbors, that you love and respect every living being. Remember that God offers even the head of the evil one when he wants to offer the best to a good person. Aztec Christic Magic Samael Aun Weor. 15. Chapter 6. The Aztecs' luminous dragon is the Egyptian god Hippocrates. Hidden from our sight by the veil of the fourth dimension or DJN's beings, people and things. In Chapter 3 we spoke about the 4 bodies of sin. These bodies serve for the manifestation of the human being in the physical world. However, the physical body is only one amongst 4, which the profaner aware of, since the ethereal, astral and mental bodies are unknown to them. The physical body can manifest itself within the planes or suprasensible worlds without losing its physiological characteristics. The law of gravity reigns in this physical chemical world, and the law of levitation in the worlds of the fourth dimension. The detached energy from the solar fire is fixed in the heart of the earth. This is the vibrating nucleus of the cells in any living being. This is the astral light, the azithan magnesia of ancient alchemists. When the Master Jesus walked upon the waves of the Sea of Galilee, he carried his body, submerged within the astral light. The astral light co-penetrates the whole atmosphere. The astral light is the cause of all the marvelous powers in the human being, and the sacred fire of all life. Through knowledge, willpower and faith we can submerge our physical body within the infinite ocean of the astral light. Thus, while in the astral light we can dematerialize the physical body or mold it into any form we wish, making it elastic or fluidic to the degree of making it capable of passing through steel metal plates, or through mountains, walls, etc., without receiving any harm. We can travel with it from one place to another at supersonic velocities, or make it stay invisible from the retina of other people's physical eyes. The solar energy is astral light. Its essence is the Christonic power, enclosed within the fecundating pollen of the flowers, within the heart of the fruit of any tree, within the glands of internal secretion of the animal and of the human being, within the human body. The most important base of the astral light is in the coccyx. The Aztecs named this sacred power Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent that only awakens and ascends towards our pineal gland by means of amorous magic. The god Hippocrates governs the energy of the astral light. He was the living symbol of the sun when it was rising at the beginning of spring, child of Isis and Osiris. He was born after the death of his father, during the shortest day of the year and during the blossoming of the lotus flower. Traditions represented H as a delicate being who did not reach his maturity, save when he transformed himself into Horus, in other words, when he transformed himself into the sun with all of its splendors. His cult was introduced in Greece and Rome with some alterations. There, he appears as the god of silence, and they represented him with the index finger over his lips. The infinite tranquility and the infinite activity have their point of contact in the silence. Aztec Christic Magic Samael Aun Weor. 16. Chapter 7. The Sacred Tiger. The jaguar or American tiger is specially worshipped amongst the numerous indigenous tribes who populate those dense jungles from the Colombian, Venezuelan, Brazilian and Ecuadorian Amazonian region, the Huitors, Moranas, Munames, Huahibos, etc. Consider the tiger to be a sacred and untouchable animal to the point that if one of these natives comes across one of these felines, in spite of being armed with bow and arrows, and on many occasions armed even with fiery weapons, they prefer to imprison their dogs and turn back, ignoring all of their affairs, before attempting anything against the jaguar. None of them would ever dare kill a jaguar or American tiger. Every tribe from the Amazonian jungles is governed by two authorities, the administrative, that is represented by the chief of the tribe, and the spiritual, that is incarnated by the piachi, sorcerer in English, which we call priests. The natives from the Amazonian jungles do not kill the tiger, because they know that the tiger is the incarnation of one of the piachi of their tribe. In other words, the piachi of their tribe can